Hello, everybody. I just want to give you a very short introduction to myself, something about me, not scripted, just sort of give you some indication of what I do with my time, my efforts. Well, a lot of my time goes into taking care of the animals, and this is the cutest of the animals, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. This is Thisbe. Thisbe was named after a character in Midsummer Night's Dream. She was a lovely, sweet little dog who died this year. It was very sad. And here you see her with Reggie, who is also deceased. And dear Reggie was one of the most interesting and personable cats I've ever known. Anyway, both Reggie and Thisbe got along very well together. But enough of that. I spend a lot of time traveling. This is one of the things I like doing, and so I have been all sorts of places in Europe, in Asia, particularly in India. Here you see me crossing the Boston Harbor in a very cold day, and I look a little demented right here. But in any case, I do like to travel, and I like to see other parts of the world. Probably the most interesting place I ever went to and ever have gone back to is India. I went there many years ago by ship from New York Harbor, sailing into Mumbai Harbor, and it took 23 days by ship to get to India. And I stayed in Delhi, which is near this place. This is, of course, the Taj Mahal, in the city of Agra, which is south of Delhi. And we are seeing in this photograph, which I took, the Taj as lighted by the light of the moon. If you can imagine, this was a very dark night, and the light of the moon shone on the marble of the Taj Mahal. There is a flame burning in the center here, which is common in that period. There were something like 100,000 people there watching this sight, but it seemed extremely peaceful and quiet during that time frame. I also like to travel in South India especially, and this is a picture I took on the seashore, the Arabian Sea, in the southern tip of India in the state of Kerala. I spent a lot of time in Kerala, and I'll talk to you about that a little further down the line. I also have traveled to the Rajasthan deserts, and here you see a woman carrying a basket full of things through the legs. You can see her through the legs of these wonderful camels that were crossing, and I just happened to catch the thing at the right moment, and I thought it was a very stunning photograph. It tells you something about the difference between north and south. The northern part of India tends to be drier, and especially during the hot season, it's extremely brutal. In the south, it's much more tropical and lush jungles and much rain. Here's another picture of these happen to be shepherds who were sitting at the roadside, and I took this picture from a bus as I was traveling past in many, many years ago. This is a very old photograph. You can tell that these are not digital photographs these are slides actually, and these are used in a publication that I did at the University of Michigan some years ago. Here you also have an interesting figure. This woman is selling clay pots. These are decorative clay pots that are sold in connection with a great ritual that goes on in September and October called Diwali. And she's sitting at a roadside in Gujarat, which is a state in western India. India is a very crowded place, and I found it there's hardly any place you can go in India that's not interesting. There are some 16 or so major languages, some 200 dialects, and many parts of India seem totally foreign from other parts of the country. So I found it fascinating when I went there and enjoyed doing my PhD research on the English language theater in India, a subject which you don't need to know anything about. As we go along, I spend a lot of time filming and videoing theater forms. So here you have a mask that's used in one of the theater forms that's in the region of Tamil Nadu in South India. And I'll show you some other masks if I get a chance. Here you have actors resting at the side of under the trees on a very hot day when I was filming some costumes worn by Yakshagana actors in the state of Karnataka. And also, this is a puppet used in that region for performance, made out of leather and painted in such a way that the vivid colors show through as the sun shines through this particular puppet. This is a monkey, the monkey Hanuman, who is the character who is a devotee of Lord Rama in the epic Ramayana. This is a photograph of me taken last summer in May when I was in South India in Kerala. I was staying in a small village working with one of my friends on a book which we finally published and which we published in the last month or so. In any case, it's a beautiful little environment. Right behind me is the garden going down to the river, and all sorts of fruits and vegetables are grown there. And so most of the time we had fresh fruit and vegetables on our trays for dinner and lunch. Most of my work centers around a theater form which probably nobody knows anything about. At least none of you students probably know about it. It's called Kudiatam. It takes place often when it's in the temple in a special theater, which you see here, a special theater that is used for that performance. And I'll just sort of use my little cursor and come down and show you. This is the stage itself, the theater itself, inside a walled compound, and here you see the wall in the background. And the temple, the sacred part of the temple is here behind these slatted sides. And the great gold flagstaff stands guard in front of the temple. In any case, this is a very interesting theater form, which I don't really have time to tell you about, but at some other moment maybe I will. I studied Kudiata many years ago from my teacher, Kalamandalam Ramachakyar, who you see on the right-hand side. He's standing next to his wife and daughter, and his wife's mother at the back in the background, and one of his students directly behind his wife. I had the good fortune of being able to bring him to State University of New York at Stony Brook, where I taught for many years, and we produced one of these wonderful theater forms performed by theater students in our department. In a few years ago, I took this photograph of a makeup artist putting makeup on one of the performers who I work very closely with now, Margi Madhu Chakyar. He is the fellow that wrote the book that I edited recently. A gifted and talented performer, very young and very enterprising and imaginative. Here you see him in full costume and makeup in an actual performance, performing the demon king of Ravana, who is terribly envious of his rival Rama, and he is in love with Rama's wife, who he abducts and carries back to his palace in the area of Lanka. Forms a wonderful story, and the performance by the Demon King is spectacular. I do a lot of directing, and so one of the more recent things I've directed, in the last 5 years I've been directing in New Jersey. And I work with several theater companies there. One is a theater company called Epic Actors Workshop that does performances. In this case, we were performing in the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark. And the play began with this wonderful dance by an artist who is now working professionally in New York. The other characters in the play used masks that I had brought from Bali, and so you see this wonderful thief who's about to break into a house wearing one of these spectacular masks. Another really spectacular mask, and one of the important moments in the play, took place in this great where this demon, the brother-in-law of the king, wears a full face mask with a movable chin and mouth, and he's intimidating a maidservant at the house of a concubine. I also directed another play for a group in New Jersey. This play was by Rabindranath Tagore, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature some years back. It's called Sacrifice, and we were invited to Calcutta and performed the work in Calcutta on the great Tagore stage there. One of my students worked with me on another production I did in Jersey called Hayavadana, and this is the masks that he made for the goddess Kali. And he also made this spectacular headdress mask for the elephant-headed god Ganesha. He did a really remarkable job. He had studied mask making in Paris and recently come back and worked with me and the company to make these masks for our performances. A few years ago, the Linden House, a local art gallery, chose to select some artifacts from my collection, that of my wife and myself's collection of musical instruments, masks, costumes, etc. And here you see the gallery where these are displayed, close-ups of some of the masks that were made by the Maharaja's mask maker in the palace in northeastern India, and puppets used in a theater form in Kerala, South India, of a style of theater called Kathakali. I've also done a lot of work and have a grant from the Freeman Foundation to teach teachers in the Georgia and North Carolina and South Carolina and Florida to teach them about the use of East Asia in their classrooms. So we work with secondary school teachers both here in Athens and in Gwinnett County primarily. This happens to be photographed in Savannah, where we were working with teachers, and we were linking up with our facilities here in Athens. And one of the teachers from our Department of History was teaching a course in Chinese history to these teachers. I had the good fortune of being able to bring one of my relatives to the campus of the Gwinnett Center, and she was teaching the teachers to use the No Theater of Japan as a teaching vehicle for these people in the Gwinnett school systems. So, to be quite frank, I do a lot of work in different kinds of categories of things, directing, teaching, teaching secondary education teachers, and doing research and writing on Indian theater. So basically, I have very little time to do what I'm doing right here, which is rest. And I hope you've enjoyed this little understanding of what I do, and I look forward to working with you. Take care.